What'd he say? I bet he said field goals were going to be the difference in this one. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Len with you. Yeah, still here live from Levi Stadium following Niners. What would you guys call it? Just an absolute ass kicking of the New York Jets. 32-19, a beatdown.
Yeah, wasn't that close.
Of their old past. 32-19, it was not that close. Niners score on 8 consecutive drives. First time they've done that since 1978. They punt on their opening drive, and then, guys, they go, I've got it for you right here. Field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, 32-19, and we'll make that our stat of the game, sponsored by Poppy Bank, located throughout California. Poppy Bank is here to help you hit your financial goals. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. We talked as we led up to the game a lot about Christian McCaffrey. He did not play in this one due to the calf strain, and they didn't need Christian McCaffrey to beat down the New York Jets. 28 carries for 147 yards for J.P. Mason, and that's the most ever that a running back has carried a ball under Kyle Shanahan as a head coach.
Yeah, and he was amazing, right? I mean, this is a kid that, wasn't even invited to, to the combines or a NFL a scouting day. And here he is. He makes his football team, and he's trained well in the offseason, and he got out, and he showed it. I mean, we've seen, some flashes of him, and we kind of knew what he was capable of, but tonight, he just showed out on Monday Night Football. It's his best game as a 40 as a NFL football player. So, Christian McCaffrey, I mean, we know when Christian McCaffrey gets better, he'll be in the lineup. But JP, he showed out tonight.
It's the story of the game. The most rushing yards since Christian McCaffrey the first game last year against Pittsburgh. He had 152. Mason had 147. Only Joe Mixon of the Texans had 159, had more rushing yards than J.P. Mason, and he does it in a different way than Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey's so quick and fast and all these different things. He is in a true 49er fashion, and they found him, and this is why the Shanahan offense works. They find guys that go one cut and go. That's J.P. Mason. He makes a decision. He goes down the field. He's a north-south runner, and he hits you in the mouth, and that's what the 49ers want to be anyway. The only thing after this one is I know Christian McCaffrey doesn't want to come out of games, but when he does come back, I think you got to find a place for J.P. Mason. I'm not saying he's the number one back. I'm not saying it's rotation. I'm not saying it's 1A, 1B. But you got to have Jordan Mason carry the ball 10 times. I mean, he carried it 28 for 147. And you know this, Dennis. I mean, now these guys don't even play in the preseason. So think about what J.P. Mason's going to be able to do when he actually gets into really good football shape, because he carried the ball some in the preseason, but he didn't carry it a ton, a few times a game, 4 or 5 times a game. But now, you ask a guy to go 28, and he wasn't slowing down in the fourth quarter. The Jets were tired. He was a battering ram right at the Jets, and they just said, no more. Like, we're done, man. We're throwing in the towel. So it was impressive what this kid did. And remember, he had a 17-yard touchdown run taken off the board because
by the Deebo Samuel holding penalty. That was a cheap-ass hold, dude. I didn't like that hold at all.
So he got robbed of one. Deebo actually got the 2-yarder. That was when they had 2 holding calls, but they still scored a touchdown on the drive. So J.P. Mason was really good, and he's the story of the game. Not 6 field goals. Well, give me that. I need to hear about 6 field goals from a kicker, Dennis. But
Jake the Meg,
147 yards.
Got Greg the Leg, Jake the Meg. I heard Greg said it to you on your show today. He said this could be the difference in the game. The kicking, 6 field goals might have been, John.
Yeah,
you don't score on 8 straight drives without 6 of those being field goals. That's all I'm saying. J.P. Mason, though, as you pointed out, 28 carries. Christian McCaffrey's never carried the ball that many times under Kyle Shanahan. Only 4 times last year did he carry the ball that many times. That's what was working, though. What did you think of the passing offense? Because I didn't think it was all that great, to be honest with you. I didn't think Brock looked that sharp.
I mean, you saw Brandon Ayuk. He dropped that touchdown pass.
That was a tough catch. It was a great throw, actually.
It was a fantastic throw. It hit him in the hands. So
dropped a couple, hit him in the hands.
Yeah, and the pass game. But you didn't need the passing game, right? I mean, the ball possession. The 49ers kept the ball on the offensive side most of the football game. It was keep away. Aaron Rodgers didn't get the opportunity to be Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't so great tonight. But still, I mean, if your running game is hitting, and credit to those offensive line. I mean, those offensive linemen. I mean, Trent Williams came in. I think he had an IV in the fourth quarter.
Did you hear what he just said, John? Do you hear what he said?
I said it quickly, but they opened up
the
some
offensive
linemen. On both sides of the ball. Both sides of the ball. I'm gonna flip it now. The defense, they control the line of scrimmage, and the offensive line got after it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. You said it twice.
I did say it twice.
The other thing was, one of the things we discussed a lot was what was Aaron Rodgers going to be at 40 coming off an Achilles? He couldn't move. That wasn't the Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying he's super athletic. He's not, he's not Justin Fields running around back there, but he's
gingerly like moving around.
He
back
didn't
there,
move around a lot on the interception that was tipped up by Demo and our good friend Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Intercepted it. He could hardly move. He kind of spun way, went to the other one, then threw the ball. He just wasn't moving like Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not saying that the 49ers defense doesn't deserve credit, because they did. They made plays. They got a fumble early in the game. They got the interception. They played very good defense tonight. And boy, I tell you, Leonard Floyd across from Nick Bosa is going to be a problem, because he had a hurry that caused an interception, and he had had the sack on the night. I thought it was really, really good, but it was obvious that Aaron Rodgers wasn't Aaron Rodgers. And I don't know if that'll get better, whatever the case may be, but he does not move. And the only guy who really consistently he targeted two guys consistently. Garrett Wilson, who was basically his Devontae Adams, who was the Packers. He was just looking at him the entire time. The Niners made a great adjustment to that to take away some of those in-cutting routes against him, and then he would dump it off to Breece Hall. That was their offense. That was it.
And we sort of anticipated that would be the case. What was interesting is, I can't remember who said it to us before the game, whether it was Tim Ryan or it was Larry Krueger who was in here, and he'll join us, by the way, on the postgame show at some point as we roll on here as the Niners beat the New York Jets 32-19 to open the season. But one of them said to us, it'll be because I said there's still some unknown with Aaron Rodgers. Like, we just don't know what we're going to see from him. Didn't look very good at all, to your point. Didn't look very mobile, which is what was such a huge tool in his bag, that he could extend plays, he could drop back. And we kind of thought, even if he is able to do that this year, may be some time before it starts to feel like the normal Aaron Rodgers. That said, he's much older. It could take him a lot longer to get back to that point. But whoever it was said to us, it'll be interesting to see what happens when they have to play from behind, or if they have to play from behind. And once they went down, after what we saw from him in the first half, I just kind of thought there's no chance. And I think that's why Kyle said we can run the ball, what do you say, 37 total times? Is that the number of carries the Niners had in this one? I got it for you right here, 28 to 30. Yeah, 37 times the Niners run the ball.
We know the record with Kyle. He gets over 30, nearly to 40.
38 times, excuse me.
He's unbeatable. That's just what they do. That means they're controlling the ball. So they did a nice job in controlling the ball. And like you said, after they dominated the second quarter, and after the touchdown drive by the Jets, and would say, it was a pretty impressive drive. But after that, the 49ers, whatever the adjustments they made, they stopped it. And they knew Breece Hall was going to be the engine behind it. They were going to have to combo that with Aaron Rodgers, and they shut down Breece Hall, did a really nice job, giving Nick Sorensen and others on the defensive staff credit, because they knew what the Jets were going to do. They stopped Breece Hall, and Aaron Rodgers at this point, maybe it'll get better as the season goes on, but he didn't have the mobility, and the defensive line for the 49ers dominated.
Yeah, and when you look at the numbers, by the way, on that third drive, that's where I thought things got kind of dicey, because I do think coming out of this game, Niners defense looked as good as we've seen. Last year, this was an all-out dominant performance. I know they didn't hit the quarterback a ton, but they just didn't allow him to move the ball. They forced a handful of 3-and-outs, a bunch of punts. They forced a fumble early on Breece Hall on the second drive, on the very first play of the second drive, only come away with a field goal. But on that touchdown drive, the third drive of the Jets, I got a little anxious and nervous. 3 different 3-and-long situations. All 3 were completed passes to Garrett Wilson. They marched down, scored that touchdown. It was a 3rd and 8 that got converted, a 3rd and 7, and then a 3rd and 6 at the 18-yard line. At that point, Niners went down 7-3. They come back and kick a field goal and just sort of stayed with the same game plan. Then comes the Leonard Floyd sack of Aaron Rodgers on 3rd down, which will really change the fortunes of the game for the defense.
Yeah, and the book on Aaron Rodgers is if you get some pressure. I mean, you get some pressure on him. And he's not as mobile, like you said, John. In the past years, you get some pressure on him. I mean, he's great with his quick throws, but you get some pressure on him. He can't move around. He's going to make some bad decisions, make some bad throws. So, the defensive line really got after him. There weren't the sacks there, but there was plenty of pressure.
And as my friend Katie texted me, 32-19, the Niners get the win. What, you were going to roll in at home and beat Nick Bosa in an election year? I don't think so, week 1. That ain't going down. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund, hanging out with you here following a Niners 32-19 victory over the New York Jets. And the player of the game, it's got to be J.P. Mason, fills in for the injured Christian McCaffrey. By the way, it says he found out on Friday night, something like that he would be the starter. And he said, I got to let Christian know, man. These are long games. Well, Christian McCaffrey has never carried the ball 28 times in the 49ers offense. J.P. Mason did for 147 yards today. Niners 32-19. We got more to come here from Levi Stadium. Niners are 1-0. It's a short week. Vikings on Sunday. We'll talk more about that coming up next, only here on the Sports Leader. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown, John Lund with you from Levi Stadium following a Niners Week 1 32-19 beatdown of a Super Bowl contender in the New York Jets. Is that right? Is that what we were told? That's what I was told.
Yeah, by
a
who?
long way to go.
Yeah, long way to go.
Contender. 32-19 doesn't tell the story.
No, it was worse than that. It was. I mean, they scored a touchdown at the end there. Do the Jets? I mean, it was 32. What? 32. Did they go for 2 there at the end?
Did they?
I can't even remember. Tim says yes.
Well, but here's the deal, though. Aaron Rodgers.
32-13 is where we were.
Took him out the football game.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was really. I mean, that's when you know it was throwing the towel, right? I mean, you have the greatest comeback quarterback in NFL history, and you take him out the football. I mean, you're down by 2 scores. Yeah, 2 scores and 2 extra two-point conversions,
yeah, exactly.
and you take him out the football game. I mean, you kind of throw in the towel at that point,
Well,
right?
at one point, the Niners went up 16. They decided to kick a field goal to go up 16.
Yeah, that was weird.
And I thought it was interesting. Did they call a timeout right before that, John?
I think so, yeah.
Because they were down there and it was 4th and short. And I thought, okay, maybe they'll go for it. They were inside the 10-yard line, maybe inside the 5. I have to look exactly where they were. I think it was the last field goal they kicked to go up 16.
Yeah.
And I'm always opposed to kicking a field goal in a 2-score game to make it a 2-score game. However, with the way the Jets were moving the ball, with the way the defense was playing, with where the clock was, you still needed 4 things to happen for the Jets. They had to score 2 touchdowns, get 2 two-point conversions, which again makes it a little bit more dicey. The Niners go for it and don't get it there, and the Jets come back and score. Then things start to get real hairy because then you start talking about giving Aaron Rodgers too much time and too many opportunities to come back in. So I'm okay there after it's all said and done that they kicked the field goal to go up 16. Rodgers was awful. 13 of 21, 167, a touchdown and an interception. Brock Purdy, 19 of 29 for 231. But I think for me, the difference in the game, and we'll get to our difference maker, sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference at our independently owned authorized retailers today or at benjaminmoore.com, and by Abundant Life Weight Loss. Call 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. I'm going to go with the defense being the difference in the game in this one. Again, just 19 points allowed, 14 first downs in total for the Jets to 24 for the 49ers. Third down efficiency for the Niners, 6 of 13, 6 of 10 for the Jets. The Niners ran 70 plays to the Jets 49. It was an absolute beatdown. They never got in any rhythm. By the time they came out in the second half, because of what the Niners did in their 8 consecutive scoring drives, starting with their second and ending with their last in the game. First time they've done that since 78. They couldn't get any rhythm going. They had to abandon the run. 401 total yards to 266 is how the Niners beat them. Defense has got to be the calling card after this one.
Oh, for sure. And up front, dominating the line of scrimmage. And we talked about at the beginning of the game was make this team one-dimensional, even though you had Aaron Rodgers back there as quarterback, but make it one-dimensional. You shut down the run, and you get after the passer. And, Leonard Floyd had a fantastic game. Nick Bosa was there. They got 2 guys on the inside. They shut down the run, and they got after the quarterback.
I'll give it up to Trent Williams. He didn't have any training camp. He had 33 pass rush sets, no pressures. I mean,
did he play every snap? At one point, they put up a graphic on the screen. They said just played all 65 snaps today. It was at one point, maybe it was on the TV broadcast.
Could be.
Yeah, I wouldn't concern.
But I'm just saying, like 33 pass rush snaps. You don't have any training camp. You come popping in here. And look, they didn't have Hassan Reddick. I thought that their pass rush, which had been talked about, Will McDonald was a first-round pick in 23. Jeremiah Johnson, a kid out of Florida State, was a first-round pick in 22. And so I thought they'd bring something, and they didn't. They didn't have much of a pass rush up front, but give a ton of credit to Trent Williams, who, look, he's one of the best of all time. I get it, but still to come in, play all the snaps, have 33 pass rush snaps, and give up nothing.
And these were long drives.
Yeah.
I mean, 49ers had some long drives in there, and he stood in there. He's a professional, and he's a pretty good tackle, pretty good.
Man, I was on the field before the game. We walked back out onto the field, and you stand around Trent Williams, and you see other guys. They're all big, and of course they're in pads and everything. Just Trent's a different thing. I mean, the arms, the whole thing.
You say stand around. I say gravitational pull. I think that guy's got you get sucked into his gravitational pull. You just got to get pulled into it.
But he's getting excited, and he hadn't hit guys for a long time, and so they're doing some of the just light hitting before the game to just kind of get themselves lathered
up. Get the blood moving, yeah.
And man, it's just Trent is different. You see the other offensive linemen, even Nick Bosa. You see, because the defensive linemen around, they're hitting each other, and it's just like this dude, man. I wouldn't want to be like. Even in like a play set like you guys do before a game, you're not hitting real hard. It's just like he's just different. Like you just see him and you look at him and you go, man.
I could take him.
I know you could. Now, not even in your prime. Now you could.
Is there any O-line? Is there any tackle
No,
you do?
look at-
No.
no, not so much.
I mean,
Look at these
Anybody got a
John Lund fans
that is
here.
nice right there.
These John
Those
Lund
are not
fans?
my fans.
Look at these guys. These are all Lund.
Look at number 97 there.
Look at that guy. Dude, he threw a
that
heart
Nick
up at
Bosa?
Lund. He threw a hand heart up at Lund as he
No,
walked away.
he was doing that to you.
He did that to you. He looked you straight in your eyes. Did he look into the depths of your soul and he threw a heart up at you?
You're right, and that was really creepy. That was really creepy.
Yeah. You got a big beard on, wearing a Nick
I
Bosa
didn't mind
jersey.
him dancing. I didn't mind the bellies hanging out.
He pointed at Johnny through the heart up
But when he
and
did the
walked
heart at the end, that creeped me out.
Shout out to Faithful.
That creeped me out.
Shout out to 49er Faithful.
The heart, and then he pointed too.
Yeah.
And made eye contact.
I love you, man.
I was like, man, my back's to that. I'm not looking.
I'll get you off the hook on this one. Speaking of the long drives Dennis was talking about from the Niners, their third drive of the game, they go 9 plays, their fourth 12, their fifth 12, their sixth 11th, their seventh 8, then they go 11 more. Their shortest drive of the game after their second drive was their last drive of the game where they went 5 plays, 26 for a field goal. But in terms of total plays, 9, 12, 12, 11, 8, 11, 6 of their 8 consecutive, all in the guts of that, the part of that game there. In the middle part of that game, the guts of the game, went over 8 plays or more, most of them double digits.
And what that means is your defense is sitting on the bench just watching, getting rest. So
And their defense is gas because they're running the ball every damn time. Yeah.
And you get on the field and you 3 and out. You shut down the run, first and second down, third down, you earn the right to rush the passer, and you get her done. You go on the field and watch your offense, another, a 10-snap series, and you're in the sidelines getting your air.
I think in general, this game tonight, because I think the Jets are going to be a good team. I think it's going to take some time, but they're going to be a good team. The 49ers dismantled them. The 32-19 is not indicative of the way the game was played and how much they dominated on both sides. And this is J.P. Mason in for CMC. This is Brock Purdy not playing all that well. I mean, the final 3 quarters, he was 2 for 6 for 20 yards in the first quarter, and he played better. This is Brandon Ayuk dropping a pass that he would normally catch in the back of the end zone. This was a team that had 2 holding calls but still scored a touchdown. So it wasn't like they played the best game they could play, and they beat a team really by much more than the score indicated, who thinks that they're going to be a problem in the AFC. Now, maybe the Jets are going to be a problem in the AFC, but the 49ers handled them easily, to be honest. At one real drive for the Jets, they got a touchdown, and then they shut them out from that point. They scored 8 straight times. The one at the end led by Tyrod Taylor, that's nothing. They let him score that touchdown, essentially. But this is, I think, an impressive win because it's Monday night. A lot of people were saying that the Jets were going to win. Then when CMC was announced that he was out, a lot of people were saying that. In fact, we had people coming up to us while we're eating going, the Jets are going to win this one tonight. And it just really wasn't that close of a game outside of one drive by the Jets.
It is funny how when you go through an offseason, and we do this all season long too, you go through a week building up to another game, you can psych yourself into a team at times. And the Jets offseason relative to that of the 49ers noisy one, I think, had people thinking that way, especially with McCaffrey out. Instead, it's 28 carries, the most times a running back has ever carried the ball under Kyle Shanahan as a 49er head coach. J.P. Mason's 147 yards on the 28 carries. In total, they've got 37 carries. If you can go 38 if you count the Brandon Allen kneel down there at the end. But really, it's 37 rushing attempts for the 49ers, and they light up the Jets 32-19, scoring on 8 consecutive drives. First time they've done that since 1978. Larry Krueger is in the building. He'll join us next. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown, and John Lund. Niners 1-0 in the 2024 season. We'll talk to Krueger about it next, only here on the Sports Leader.
Third down and 5. Bunch formation left. They single up Lazard right. Brees Hall to the right of Rodgers in the gun on third down. Four-man pressure. Rodgers hit by Bosa. Flag down, and down goes Rodgers as he is sacked by Leonard Floyd again.
Thanks for joining us. 49ers 32-19 over the Jets, and it certainly was not that close. J.P. Mason, 147 yards, the most for a 49ers runner since last season. The opener, actually, against the Steelers. Remember that block by Brandon Ayuk down the sideline, 152 yards for Christian McCaffrey, CMC, who did not play tonight, which opened the door for Mason. Huge. Our favorite part, I'm sure, was Jake Moody making the 6 field goals, and they make Aaron Rodgers look like he's 40 coming off an Achilles.
More like make Moody.
32-19 here at Levi's Stadium. John Lund, Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and our good friend who has sat in this very seat for many, many years, and it's great to have him back. That is Larry Krueger, The Krueg Show. Make sure you check that out on YouTube, and you're following Larry as well. And he does a tremendous job, and it's great to have him back. Pre-game, post-game.
Niners Nightly, Monday to Friday, 6 to 7.
Niners
Yep.
Nightly. Starting tomorrow night. Or we'll actually start last week. But
yeah.
Continuing
tomorrow night.
Yeah, so we'll have that as well. Niners Nightly, make sure you tune in. And if the Giants are playing, then you can check it out on YouTube, so make sure you check everything out. But let's just leave an open slate for you. 32-19, what'd you think?
A couple things. J.P. Mason, guys. I mean, we've been watching it all summer. So I can't really say I'm surprised. I was been calling for this for the last, 48 hours since it came out that, that McCaffrey, Christian told us at his locker on Thursday that he was going tonight, but Kyle seemed to think that there was enough pain on Friday there was not a setback, and he wanted to make sure that he clarified that it wasn't a setback, but that there was some discomfort there. And my whole thing is, if you don't have another back, then you got to make a really tough call. If you have another back, it's a really easy call. And I thought this was a really easy call because the Niners have a legitimate starting caliber running back who's 240 pounds. He has great pick and slide, great instincts. And he admitted to us that Bobby T told him that he needed to grow up and that he matured and that he bought a jugs gun. I asked Brock, he said, has it improved his catch radius? He says, absolutely, it has. So I just think JP, I'm happy for him. This is long overdue. This kid could have done this at any point over the last year. He just hasn't. You got to have an opportunity. You know what I mean? You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't get an opportunity, you're not going to do anything. So he hasn't had that opportunity until tonight. He got it. He took advantage of it. I thought that stood out to me. And the other one was Nick Sorensen. I thought Nick Sorensen called a tremendous defensive game. I thought the front and the back end were tied together pretty consistently throughout the game. I really liked the job they did against some really premier weapons: Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. I thought they would have played a few more stunting games up front than they did, but Malik Collins played great. So I really liked those three things: Collins, Sorensen, and Mason.
Yeah, and you watch the way JP runs. I mean, Chris McCaffrey's a whole different level, but when you look at JP Mason, he's that one cut guy, right? He's in the line of scrimmage. He's got great vision. And when he gets contact, his legs just keep churning. He's churning and churning and churning. Now, my question is, moving forward, when Christian McCaffrey comes back, how do you keep him in the offense?
I mean, it's a really nice problem to have. I'd rather have too many guys and not enough time than not enough guys. I'll just say this: I really believe the Niners have a great chance to win the Super Bowl this year, but that. A big part of that great chance that I envision is predicated on Christian being healthy in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. So anything you got to do to get him there, especially since this looks like it sounds like a very serious injury, one that could go at any moment. I don't know the status of his Achilles. It could be anything from rock solid to dangling by a thread, but he's a very, very valuable player. And if you lost him, the numbers in Vegas would change. So I just think they have a luxury. They have a starting caliber number 2 back, and I think they should take advantage of it.
Does it surprise you? 28 carries, the most ever under Kyle Shanahan for a running back. I mean, that was a bit of a surprise to me, being that they love to run the ball that many times. 7 total attempts at running the football today. Just your thoughts on J.P. Mason being the bell cow. He said after the game, I got to talk to Christian. Man, these are some long games. I said, well, even he hasn't done this.
I loved it. I think he's the kind of back that can withstand that kind of a workload. Not every guy can. This guy's a horse. I mean, he's a big back. This guy's, I got to say, every bit at 235, 240, and he runs with conviction. I didn't feel like he slowed down at the end of the night. I'm sure he's going to be sore tomorrow.
I bet.
I'm sure he's going to be sore tomorrow.
I think, too, when and if Christian McCaffrey comes back, and there was a national report by Adam Schefter saying that he was probably going to miss the Vikings game as well, I think it gives the 49ers confidence that whatever's going on with Christian McCaffrey, and this is just what they've done in the past and is smart because they have to work under the assumption that they're going to go far in the playoffs. So why push him now, especially that you're 1-0? So, look, if a guy's healthy, but if he's not, J.P. Mason just showed you that not only should he be in there and give them confidence if Christian can't go next week, but also this discussion as Christian McCaffrey gets older, and look, when you're 30 as a running back, you're going to the other side. They've got to make sure that he's healthy. They just signed him to an extension, and they're not going to mess with him. J.P. Mason has earned carries, though, to go 28-147 like he did tonight, and he's a different kind of a runner. He is the north-south punch-in-the-face kind of guy, so he is a little bit different than Christian McCaffrey, who can beat you with quickness and moves and all those kind of things. So if Christian McCaffrey gets 20 carries or 20 touches with the receptions, then Jordan Mason needs to get 10 because he proved tonight he's a different kind of a runner. The Jets were saying, you just said that he didn't look like he was tired by the end of this thing. The Jets said no more. Not Jordan Mason. The Jets said we're good. Like no more. Please,
he went to Rams. No Moss.
I mean, he's like the He's like the David Montgomery that the Lions have. Montgomery lays the lumber on you, and then Gibbs is quick and fast. That's kind of what they could have here. And I'm not saying, look, having CMC in the game is great, but this guy has earned carries.
I'd like to see him. I mean, I'm at a point now with Mason that 12 touches a game. I don't care how they have to come. Run, pass, throw it to him, whatever you got to do. Get him a dozen touches a game. I think that will take he can shoulder some of that load that Christian's had to shoulder. And then also, I just think he's dynamic as a receiver this year. I mean, this kid bought the $3,000 Jugs gun. We've been joking about it all summer, but it's the best $3,000 the kid's ever spent. He picks the ball off the carpet. He can sky for balls. He's really caught the ball away from his frame consistently all summer. I don't know that he ever caught the ball last year away from his frame. So I think it's huge improvement. Purdy notices it, and I think Shanahan notices it. I hope the kid gets a lot of run throughout the year, McCaffrey or no McCaffrey.
Let me ask you about this, and it's a good segue to do this. Protecting the Quarterback, sponsored by the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. Protect your community and apply for a new career in law enforcement at cocosheriff.org today, and sponsored by Planet Orange, effective eco-friendly pest control. How did the offensive line play? What'd you think for the Niners today? Trent Williams, by the way.
Trent Williams played well.
Steady
he had to come out for a couple plays because Kyle said he got an IV. Banks, I thought, played really, really well. I talked to Dominic Pooney. He said that he's like, my best play was the one that got called back.
17-yarder.
Yeah. He said, I got a nice reach block and I got the guy on the ground, and that was probably my best play. He's like, I had a couple other plays that I'm kind of, not necessarily eager to see the film on. But, he's like, hey, man, he's a really smart young kid. He's like, got it all in perspective. He's like, my first NFL start, I'm going up against Quinnen Williams and Javon Kinlaw on Monday Night Football. He's like, I think I'm going to remember this night for a long time.
Yeah, look, I think he's going to be good. And, he's not going to be perfect. I mean, again, we saw a lot of high first-round picks yesterday that you're expecting a ton out of. It just takes a minute. I mean, that's just what it does when these grades come out. But I don't think Puny is a guy that is just a preseason guy. He's going to be in there. He's solid. There was a lot of great remarks, like you said. He made better plays than he thinks, and I think that the film is going to be more kind than he thinks. He wasn't perfect, but from a standpoint of who dominated, we talked about this right before the game. Who was going to dominate on the offensive and defensive line? It was the 49ers easily.
You didn't hear Williams' name at all. I mean, I can't remember any, tackles behind the line of scrimmage or any pressures. So Pooney played really well tonight.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny when you talk to Chris Forster, he doesn't throw around a lot of compliments, but he really has complimented this kid a number of times. He said he's doing awesome. Said he doesn't make the same mistake twice. I mean, and Dennis, you played in the interior. I mean, if you're a guard or center and you're not on your game, you're 2 steps from the franchise quarterback. So it's just every play at that position is vital. You give one of these monsters inside a free run at Brock Purdy, and it's going to be, that's going to be a play you're going to see in your nightmares. So it's a lot of pressure on the interior spots.
I guess all in all, feeling pretty good if on Sunday it's got to be J.P. Mason and not McCaffrey again.
I feel good. I mean, how
do you feel about the depth behind him? Isaac Guerrero, and then you're dipping deeper than that.
Well, I like Patrick Taylor quite a bit. He looked good this summer in the last preseason game against the
And he's
Raiders?
a bit of a vet. He was an undrafted guy. Was he a Packer before?
He
What
was a Packer. Yeah. He's a big back. He kind of runs a little upright. Guerendo's interesting.
Well, Sean Drone-like. Yeah.
Guerendo's a monster prospect because he's so big and so fast. He doesn't really have the instincts, but I mean, the size and the speed is off the charts. So, and also Cody Schrader was a nice back this summer, and of course they lost him to the Rams.
Took him, yeah.
So, and I'll say this too. I mean, I know he's on the practice squad, but Keyshawn Vaughn has experience running in this league, and if they had to go to him, there are worse guys that you could go to than Keyshawn Vaughn.
Look, the one thing is that the 49ers have proven, and Kyle Shanahan has proven, and before that Mike Shanahan proved with the Broncos, is that they know what kind of running back they're looking for in this scheme. And I'm not saying just anybody can jump back there and do it, but if you go back to guys like Olandis Gary and Mike Anderson and all those kind of things, and here when you look at Matt Breida, who's a free agent, and Mason and all they know what they're looking for in a back. They shouldn't draft him in the third round anymore, but they're looking when you go down to Elijah Mitchell and guys like that, they know if they can find the one cut guy who can get to the hole, they can do it. Now, it's easier said than done. A lot of backs have come into the league, and you're like, it's a zone scheme. Darren McFadden could never run it with the Raiders when he did it. So there's certain guys who can't, but when they find the guys who have run the scheme and are successful at it, then Kyle Shanahan has been able to pick up back. So I'm not as worried about it. I am worried if they lose Christian McCaffrey for a long time because he's not a normal back. What he does is he makes your defense adjust. And so tonight, my concern was, okay, you don't have CMC. You don't have really Ayuk at high level. You don't have Pursaw. So look at all these offensive weapons that you're looking for. But then you get CMC. He ran the ball a lot. Or excuse me, Debo, he ran the ball a lot. You had him. You had other guys step up. That wasn't a really big Kittle night. I thought he would look more for Kittle. Would Purdy, he really didn't. So I'd have to look at the film to see how he was covered. But still, to have Mason jump up for 147 yards, have Debo, play Debo. He had a nice 25-yard catch and run. A little bit later, Jawan Jennings, before he had more trouble with the ankle, but Jawan Jennings had a 22-yarder there. They had other guys step up. It just showed you how absurdly deep they are in talent, that they could lose what they lose, or Ayuk, who didn't really play a very good game. They could lose these guys and still put 32 on the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, considering, a great defense can give you, dole out a lot of adversity, there wasn't a lot of negative yardage plays in this game. I mean, I can't think of too many negative plays.
There was that reverse to Debo.
Yeah, I mean,
it was all for 1 or 2. It wasn't any big losses.
But there was a JP Mason -2. But yeah, you're right.
But the Niners took care of the football. They didn't have the huge negative plays. And I think that's what you're going to see more from Brock Purdy. And people saying, well, what do you expect from Brock Purdy this year? I just think if you said, what's the one area that if you could critique Brock Purdy in the harshest of critiques, you would say he needs to get better at, he could take a little bit better care of the football. And I think you're going to see that this year. I think he's going to take a little bit better care of the football.
Larry Krueger, the voice you hear. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ. Dennis Brown, John Lem with you. Niners 32-19 over the New York Jets. They are 1-0, getting ready. And we'll see what they do in the backfield. If it's not Christian McCaffrey, if they need any more depth back there. Hell, talking running backs for Tatum Bell out there. Get somebody like that. Let's grab one of those guys. He's got to be hanging around.
Clinton Portis.
Clinton Portis. Get one of those guys.
Scary,
yeah, Norshawn Moreno. He's hanging out somewhere.
Wow.
We got more to come. Selvin Young. Remember that guy? We got more to come here from Levi Stadium. We'll get you the injury report. How severe is this McCaffrey situation? Adam Schefter says he may not play on Sunday against the Vikings. Niners win week 1, 32-19 on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I mean, I know, Christian does a lot, I think, in the pass game, dropping back and either going to him as a first option or knowing that he's my last option and there's a really good chance that he's open. But with JP, I think JP did a good job coming in and, there were some third downs and stuff where I was able to hit him on some check downs and him doing the same thing Christian has done. So obviously, Christian is the best, in the league at running back and what he does. I'm not taking anything away from that. But I think JP did a good job of coming in and filling his void and doing his job to allow other guys to get open and allow us to run our offense.
Voice of Brock Purdy, Niners winning quarterback tonight. 32-19, the final there after J.P. Mason. Is he talking all about him? Look, not to take anything away from McCaffrey, and you shouldn't. Guy was the offensive player of the year last year and incredible. But 28 carries today for 147 yards, 37 total totes by Niners backfield today, including Deebo Samuel got in there a bit as well and carried the rock. Brock Purdy had a couple of nice runs himself, as Larry Krueger told us he thought he would see that, or we will see more of that this season, but Brock's got to make sure he's taking care of the football. By the way, the injury report is sponsored by Mike Council Plumbing. When you need plumbing, think green and go with Mike Council Plumbing online at mcplumbing.com. In terms of the injuries in the game, only a couple. Aaron Banks did leave the game with a calf contusion is what Kyle Shanahan called it. He did not return. Juwan Jennings left the game with an ankle and did return. However, the only injury worth talking about right now is to Christian McCaffrey. We found out before the game, per Mike Garofalo of the NFL Network, he said, a surprise, 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey is inactive tonight against the Jets. This was right before we signed off here from 49ers pregame. And then right as we got into the broadcast booth or up into the press box, Adam Schefter on TV on Monday Night Football said more details on Christian McCaffrey after speaking with various 49ers officials. He said, quote, it looks like there's a real strong possibility McCaffrey will not play Sunday against the Vikings as well. In a short week, I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody.
No, I think, I don't know if it'll affect, when a guy's ready to play, a guy's ready to play. But after what Jordan Mason did, there's no reason to rush him back. He got 147 yards. He can be your running game. I know he's not Christian McCaffrey, and Larry was just talking about how he spent $3,000 on a Jugs gun. He made a nice catch in the game. I'm not confusing him for Christian McCaffrey, but in terms of what he showed you tonight, he can carry
look alike.
Yeah, I mean, he can carry a run load, but then after that, you get a little nervous. Elijah Mitchell's already out. Guerrero had a nice kick return against the Raiders in the preseason finale, but he didn't even tote the ball. It's one of the reasons they're excited about him is he didn't carry the ball a ton in college, actually. So he was at first at Wisconsin, and then he was at Louisville. So, look, they don't have a ton of experience. If this is going to be a long-term thing, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought back a veteran like Matt Breida, who's been here before. He was briefly here in camp. I wouldn't be surprised about that. I'm not saying Jordan Mason is Christian McCaffrey because McCaffrey's just different than any other running back in the league, and he forces your defense to always know where he is, all those kind of things. But Jordan Mason, you saw the Jets say, okay, we got to stop this in the second half, and he was still able to run. He goes north-south. He's going to tire out a defense. I like Jordan Mason a lot. I think that they can beat Minnesota without him. I think they can beat the Rams without
McCaffrey. The question is,
I think they can beat the Patriots. I mean, if this thing's going to take a month, the 49ers always have a long view on everything. This is a team that thinks, okay, we just want to be healthy at the end of the year. I don't know how bad this injury is, but there's no need to rush Christian McCaffrey back.
And, can Jordan Mason carry the ball 28 times? In another football game.
I don't think you need him to that many times. I think this was a bit of an outlier to that. And again, McCaffrey's never done that as a 49er. Nobody as a 49er's done that under Shanahan. He'd love to do it that many times, but I think what John's talking with change of pace is a great idea.
Yeah, and we saw tonight Deebo. I mean, definitely keen on Deebo. I mean, if he's going to run the ball, I think defenses are going to be ready for that. So you got to be a little more creative. And that's a lot of beating on the body. 28 carries, 147 yards. If you can do that every game, but can you continue consistently do that? I don't think you can do it. So you get be a little more creative in the offense, get the ball out to some other folks.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Minnesota's going to look at this thing and say, okay, if it's going to be number 24, then we got to make sure that we stop that. But then, what we saw from the passing game was inconsistent tonight. Let's be honest. And Brandon Ayuk had a drop in the end zone, and Brock Purdy was off on some throws. I mean, a throw that he had with no pressure was 10 feet over Kyle Juszczyk's head. But I saw that all weekend long with all these teams not playing the starters very much in the preseason. You can training camp your head off, and there is a certain timing that is just not there right now, and we saw it all across the league. Go back to Thursday with Kansas City and the Ravens. Patrick Mahomes did not play very well in that game, so they're all going to be better. The timing's going to be better. They're going to work more with Brandon Ayuk. All these kind of things, they're going to be fine. And I think that that's what's going to have to happen, because if McCaffrey's out, that takes away something for what the offense is. They don't throw them nearly as much. They don't move them nearly as much. And so what's going to happen is they're going to say, okay, we know where Jordan Mason's going to be. We know that he's going to be a north-south runner. We're going to stop that play, and then it's going to open up things for Brock Purdy. He's just got to be able to take advantage of it. I think he will. The timing was just a little off of the passing game, but they'll get it together.
You know who else was off? Me. I didn't tell you that the injury report is also sponsored by Habas Law. They'll fight to make it right, just like I will. Visit habaslaw.com. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lennon with you. That's why they pay me to sit here until 11 o'clock at night. We got plenty more to come. No, I'm kidding. I made that part up. But close. We're still here, like Belichick said after they just kept winning Super Bowls.
I've been in this room for 12 and a half hours.
No joke. We always like bitch and moan about how long we got to be here for Postgame.
I love it.
We do love being here. It's one of our favorite things to do.
I love it.
But John Lennon, a day like this is the days where I can't complain.
I got here at 9 o'clock.
I got here at like 12.
Tasman was going to be closed, and now it's open from being closed. That's how long I've been here. It's been open, closed, and open again.
John Lennon was on the air at 10 a.m. this morning
when
from
they were
that
closing
chair,
it.
dude. Yeah.
Now they're opening it.
Yeah, now the gates are getting put away. They weren't even here when John got here. Like the street was
and the
open.
sun was out. How about
I have no idea if my car is even.
The sun was not out yet,
closed.
Dennis. It was fog hadn't even burned off
I know,
yet. John.
It was gray when I came down here. And then it got sunny, hot, dark, and they reopened the road.
And somewhere in between, the Niners beat the Jets 32-19 and behind 28
But I'm not
carries.
complaining. I don't want to, because tomorrow I know what I'm going to get in my texts and tweets. I dig ditches for a living. You sit there. You're right. You're right.
Quit complaining, John. We're having a good time.
Complaining.
You need to stop complaining.
Not complaining.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, and a whiny John Lund hanging out.
I would like some licorice, though.
I'd like some liquor, though,
That
on
would
a
be
Monday
nice.
night. I'll take a
That would
beer.
be nice.
I'll take an O'Doul's at this point. Whatever you got, dude. Just bring me something.
Well,
somebody.
Tolbert, he likes non-alcoholic beer, apparently. Is that one in there for tonight?
Is that one in there for tonight? We'll hear about that. We got plenty more to come. Guess what? We're going to have another guest today.
Guess what?
John Dickinson is going to join us momentarily. But before we do the Super Reporter, we'll let you hear from head coach Kyle Shanahan, who gives you the injury report. By the way, what'd you think about this? Kyle Shanahan, after the game, was asked, and we'll let you hear this in the press conference. He was asked about when J.P. Mason was told he would be the starter. Kyle Shanahan said, well, we just let him know, because there's a rule about how you have to go about listing your injured players in your injury report, right? J.P. Mason to Tracy Salters at the end of the game, she was talking to him, or Lisa Salters, excuse me, at the end of the game, and she says,
fooled him.
She says, so when did you find out you were starting? And you could tell that he almost said it and then didn't think he should have been saying it. He went Friday night. I mean, you just got to. I don't think.
Then he went in and was mad at the local media, because then they jumped right on it. They said, Kyle said that you didn't know till right before the game, and you said on ABC that you learned on Friday. So which is it? And he was like, this is why I hate the media. I hate you.
Well, we'll let you hear what Kyle Shanahan had to say about the situation next. Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown, John Lennon, Adam Copeland with you. We're still here. Niners 32-19 over the Jets on the Sports Leader.
On the second offensive possession, the Jets have 3 wide receivers on the field. Xavier Gibson goes in the slot. The Niners bring out Ike Yadam. The new outside corner, Demo goes inside. Rodgers pressured out of there by Floyd, will shove it forward to Brees Hall. Fumbled the ball. The Niners have it. Malik Collins dives on the ball on the Jet 31-yard line.
That was a fumble on the second drive of the game for the Jets. The very first play of that drive, tossed out to Brees Hall, and Malik Collins jumps right on top of it after the forced fumble. There, ball out for our guy Tim Ryan.
Our first ball out of the year.
First ball out of the season.
I love it, man.
Yeah, love that. I love that. We didn't get one of those yet either, but I'm sure we'll get one.
Love
of those.
ball out, man.
Ball out.
Yes, it's fast.
It's kind of that guy. It's kind of that guy on the softball team who yells up every time there's a pop fly. You're like, did we know he hit it in the air? There's only 2 places it's going in softball. It's going up or it's going down. Ball out is Tim Ryan on the call.
But if
Great
he yells
job.
it loud enough on the field, they'll hear it.
Yeah, well, it's like he's one of the boys, dude. He's part of the
awesome.
defensive unit, and it was a great D tackle.
I wonder when he was playing for Chicago, was that the call? I mean, if it was a fumble, was he screaming ball out?
I mean, maybe. It's kind of like it's almost like there's things like that, like in baseball, a guy picks off at first, you yell back or pick, or you know what I mean. You throw you're yelling stuff to let your teammates know, or just suck up to the coach and prove you're paying attention so that you can get to the game. That's what I did. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, and John Lund with you. Why don't we hear from the head coach Kyle Shanahan as part of our post-game interview sponsored by the Handlery Union Square Hotel, San Francisco's oldest family-owned hotel. Here's the head coach Kyle Shanahan.
It's more than we block for. When we had the good lanes, he always hit them and got a bunch, but JP was awesome today.
What happened with Christian?
Just the same stuff that was bothering him all week. There was a little too much today. Game time decision. He came in, just talking to him about it. It was still there. Thought it was going to be smart to keep him out, and glad we did.
Jordan said after the game that he was told on Friday night he was going to start. When did Christian start feeling awry?
I never told Jordan he was going to start. Told me he had to be ready a bunch, but that might have been Bobby or somebody trying to pump him up, but I knew he was going to have to play a lot. I told him that he was going to have to, it wasn't going to be like usual. It was going to be a number 2 back that was splitting a lot of the time. But now he didn't know he for sure was doing that till today.
Did Christian have some sort of setback on Friday?
No, he didn't have a setback. I mean, it was on and off throughout the week. He was able to practice throughout the week, just it was always bothering him to a degree, and sometimes it goes away, sometimes it comes back, and today was bothering him a little too much to where we didn't feel good about it.
Situations where if there's any...
Is this going to linger over the next several weeks?
What's that?
Is there a concern that this is something that is going to linger over the next several
Always. I mean, it's been lingering the last few weeks, but it's getting better and better, and hopefully it'll be better next week.
Is it one of those situations where if there's any soreness pregame, you'll err on the side of caution?
Not any soreness, but there was too much soreness.
Performance tonight kind of give you some reassurance that you could allow Christian to maybe heal more than?
Not really. I mean, we always think very highly of JP when he's been in those situations. That's what he's always done, and you always want Christian out there. What he brings to the run game, also what he brings to the pass game. So it's huge to have Christian, but not at the expense of losing him for more games.
What went on with his team this summer, the holdouts, and then obviously your shooting and so much going on in the last few weeks. Did you ever worry about the both of the team? Did you always understand this is what could be possible in week 1?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with our team every day, so I know there's lots of news stories and stuff with holdouts and things like that, and when are people coming back. But our guys have been awesome in practice. They've been very focused. Anytime guys don't get a lot of practice in, I wish we could have more, so I wanted to mesh more with those guys who just got here this week, but being able to get 4 practices in with those guys, having the extra day, things like that was great for them. Still got a long way to go. Today by no means was perfect. There were some parts that were sloppy, but just overall, all 3 phases played really well together. Being able to score there at the end of the half, and with the field goal, run the clock out, score the opening drive of the third quarter, our defense getting the 2 turnovers, our kicker going 6 for 6, being able to have 37 runs. I look at that as a complete team goal that we try to do, so I was real happy with just the team overall.
I think Trent and IU look to you.
I mean, they seem fine. I mean, I'm sure we'll see some things when we watch the tape, but I mean, nothing that cost us.
What do you think about the defense, particularly against the run? I mean, you guys had some changes over the offseason on that side of the ball, some injuries, obviously. seemed like a strong first impression.
Yeah, I was really happy watching the D from the sidelines. I mean, I thought they were running and hitting. That's the thing that jumps out the most. They got a few big plays on us on a couple drives that got them moving, but for the most part, I thought we were winning most of the downs and gave up a couple big ones that we got to clean up, but I was real impressed with our defense today.
Offensively, you guys started 3 and out, and then he scored, I think, on 8 straight possessions after that. I don't want to say, did you expect it to go that productive without Christian?
Just almost spilled on myself. Sorry, what's that?
It's a tough question.
I mean, you don't really have expectations like that. You try to score every time you get the ball, and I don't expect to go 3 and out ever, but it still happens. So I didn't know that we did that until they just told me, and it kind of made sense that I don't remember seeing Mitch very much, and so that did make sense. Not having Christian is huge, but we've got a team that really commits to running the ball. We got 10 guys out there who block for whoever the running back is, and we got some running backs and some receivers who know how to lower their pads and run the ball too.
See from Brock in his first full game without Christian.
He seemed very, very good. I mean, there was many plays that he left out there. I thought he made some big-time plays. I mean, there towards the end, got a little conservative, just felt that we had the game and wanted to focus on winning the game, so we didn't have him do a lot there at the end, and he was very smart with the ball and made sure that there was no chance for them to get back in the game.
Jordan got a lot of snaps in the summer, a lot of first-team snaps. Did he get better throughout the summer, and did your confidence in him grow throughout the summer?
No, I don't think so. I think Jordan's looked the same as he always has. Not just losing Christian, but we lost a number of backs. And the coolest thing for JP that he was in such good shape going to camp that when a lot of guys go down and a guy's got to do a little bit more in practice, then the next thing you worry about is him going down. And if he wanted to come to camp in such good shape and so ready to go, it would have been hard for that not to wear him out, and it never fazed him at all. I mean, every day in practice he was the same as he's been in the past, and carried it over to the games, and to me it looks like he always does.
Are you as comfortable as you've ever been going for field goals of 50 yards or longer?
Probably for the distance, yeah. I mean, that's the difference with Jake. He does have a big leg, and I get a number and where we can attempt it from, and I don't really think much different of it, whether it's 50 or 47. I don't think it's too big of a difference for him.
Kyle, pretty much a turnover to start each half. How does that energize the entire team?
It's huge. Anytime you get a turnover, it fires everyone up. I wish we could have scored touchdowns off of both of them, but to still get points, that was one of the reasons we got the 2-score lead and never gave it back.
I think of Sorensen's game call. It was his first time as a defensive coordinator. What'd you think of some of the dialogue there?
I thought it was great. I've been on that side of the headsets throughout the preseason. I am a lot during the games and just listen to the communication before those with those guys. Nick's done a great job with all the position coaches and everyone there. They got a real understanding of what we're trying to do, and they communicate well. And I've been very happy with that side of the ball.
In training camp, Bobby Turner said, looking at Jordan's rookie year, that he needed to grow up, and maybe Bobby Turner says that about every running back. But I mean, in what ways has Jordan kind of matured, not just as a player, but off the field?
I mean, Jordan's always had a ton of confidence since the first day he got here, and I think the most part is getting used to Bobby coaching him. Realizing that he's not always angry, he just kind of stays that way, and kind of learn to appreciate it. And I think Jordan's really pushed himself each year of just the way he's worked off the field, being more conditioned. He's never been badly conditioned, but he's, we got some guys in our building like Christian, guys like Fred, Juice, George, guys who are very obsessive with how they work out, how they condition themselves, how they eat, how they sleep, and I think that stuff's really rubbed off on JP over the years.
There was a report that you guys were ready to trade Ayuk before it all came together, and that even he had to have a meeting with you, and then you had to try to run up the stairs and try to make sure he wasn't traded. Is that all true?
I mean, most of it, yeah.
So you were ready, the coach, Kyle Shanahan, was ready to trade?
That sounded a lot more aggressive. You just pointed at me and said, "You." No, No, it was that I wanted to make sure he wasn't traded already. But no, it's how I kind of reported to you guys throughout the whole time. You guys would ask me stuff about it, and I say anything could happen. There were reports that we almost traded him to some teams, and then we didn't, and some were true, some weren't. But all options were open, and it was a tough thing to kind of get to the final spot of it on both sides. And when it was all said and done, I'm glad that we had the patience. I'm glad that it worked out the way it did, because I love having BA here.
With the next 2 games on artificial surfaces, will that play a factor into what you do with Christian, particularly, last time you played on artificial surfaces?
Not totally. I don't think that was because of Dre. I mean, the game, I think that had to do more with the practice week. But, you can make the stuff with turf and everything. It's, I'll ask the player how he's feeling. If they feel good and they're ready to go, they're ready to go. If they say, I feel good on grass but not on turf, that's usually the way of saying that you don't really feel that good. So we'll see how he feels tomorrow. We'll see how he feels the next day, and we'll see how he feels on Sunday.
There was a report that Christian probably wouldn't play against Minnesota just because it's a short weekend on turf. You were saying.
I'm saying it's amazing. That person must be God, because we just found out he wasn't playing today, and I have no idea how he's going to feel tomorrow or the next day. I thought he was playing this whole week until today. So I don't know. Who knows that he's not playing next week. So.
Trent and Brandon performed given what you expected of them to, given their limited practice time?
I thought they did a good job. I'm glad they got through it healthy. It's always easier to rotate skill guys. I've never been in that position with a tackle before, so I didn't totally have an idea of how to handle it. Yeah. It would have felt real weird rotating a tackle throughout the game, and it would have felt even weirder Trent standing next to us with the offense out there. And I think he managed most of the game. He went in for an IV, I believe, sometime in the second half, and missed a couple plays, but not too much. I thought it worked out real well for the first time back.
All right, there's Kyle Shanahan as the 49ers get the win 32-19 over the Jets. Jake Moody, as they said, 6 for 6. I'm a big Jake Moody guy, always have been. 6 for 6 on the field goals. Jordan Mason goes 28 carries, the most in the Kyle Shanahan area, to one player, giving up the 28 carries for 147 yards, the most since Christian McCaffrey had 152 last year on opening day against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the second most, Joe Mixon had 159 rushing yards. Jordan Mason had 147. We'll continue to talk about it. Get your thoughts as well. Hit us up on the text line. John Lund, our good friend Dennis Brown, and of course Adam Copeland. Tim is here too, by the way. Thin Tim is here hanging out. And he's enjoying himself. He wants to go all night. We're like, yeah, we wish we could. But anyway, 32-19. More next only here on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I think, we kind of go throughout the week of me and him talking about his mindset throughout the game. I mean, it was a unique preparation because we didn't know exactly how they were going to come out and attack us, right? We kind of could go back and look at the Packers stuff. We tried to look at the Jets games last year, but having, Aaron and the Jets together, it was going to be a unique combination to try to fill it out. So, I just think he kept it pretty simple, allowed us to just go out and play free. And we continued to communicate throughout the game, so it was just good to kind of get that first one under our belt.
That was Fred Warner, captain of the defense there, talking about his new defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen, who Larry Krueger said he called a great game today. Always easy to say when the players execute and you dominate, right, Dennis? Like, man, great game by the players. Picked them off, picked up a fumble, win the turnover battle, get to Aaron Rodgers in the backfield. It's all good when that happens.
Yeah, just how he scripted it, right? But, it comes down to, and we've talked about it, just dominating the line of scrimmage. And it started early. This defensive line and the line, and I think the coverage has gotten a lot better this season. The secondary's playing really well. It's only been one game, but they played really well tonight. That defensive line, Leonard Floyd, we've talked about him. I think he's a great add-on as far as the other side of Nick Bosa, and you're going to see him get a lot of pressures like he did tonight. And you're going to see Nick Bosa do what he does, and on the inside, they've gotten a whole lot better. So, I think this defense overall today, and they dominate this game. They really dominate the game. They got after Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback that's not as mobile as he used to be, and you kind of got after him. And that's what you do on defense. And I do believe that defense is going to win championships. And I think this is a defense that can be super special this year.
Yeah, look, I think the defensive line, I know they lost Eric Armstead, but I like what they have inside. They got a lot of depth, and they're going to use it. Leonard Floyd was really good. It wasn't just the one sack. He had a couple of pressures that forced some bad Aaron Rodgers throws. I like what he did. Nick's going to be Nick. There's no question. He got held a couple of times. They didn't even call it. We talked about it before the game. The dominance of the lines are always going to determine these things. Jordan Mason got 147 yards, but the blocking was really good up front. Passing game was inconsistent, and they got enough pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And you could tell maybe later in the season Aaron Rodgers is going to move better, but he was not moving well tonight in his first game in, 22 months? He played, 4 snaps last year against Buffalo before Leonard Floyd ended his season. So he wasn't moving. They were putting enough pressure on him. And look, this secondary, I know that they had George Odom back there. At some point, they're going to get Talanoa Hufanga back there, but this is one of the better secondaries. Now, Jair Brown did get beat for the touchdown when Aaron Rodgers had the free play on the offsides, 26 yards to Allen Lazard right down the middle. And it looked like Jair Brown. I mean, I haven't looked at any tape, but Jair Brown was trailing on the play, so maybe it was him. But that was really the only glaring mistake. They didn't give up the big plays. They didn't give up the long plays. Their goal clearly was to stop Breece Hall and not make Aaron Rodgers beat them, but just say, look, this is a 40-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles. Let's see if he can. And for the most part, he couldn't. Now, I know that, again, later on in the game, it looked a little bit better because the 49ers were playing a little softer. Lazard got some late ones, but early in the game, it was about Garrett Wilson. They made a good adjustment to Garrett Wilson. They were flipping a few to Breece Hall, but by and large, across the board, they played great. And Fred Warner, by the way, speaking of him, he knocked out that first fumble that Malik Collins recovered. Yeah. So obviously Fred doing Fred things. Yeah, didn't make any mistakes that helped compound any other mistakes. And really that's where the big issues come from. Niners, by the way, 32-19 over the New York Jets. They did today score on 8 consecutive drives. They punted on their opening drive. They scored 2 touchdowns and kicked 6 field goals. That's why they're calling him Jake the Make Moody, John. That's what they're calling him. Who said that? That's what they're saying on the streets, dude. The streets. That's what they're saying. Our guy John Dickinson. The guy that made the heart, that's the streets. No, that guy's not the streets. Our guy John Dickinson, super reporter, boots on the ground. I believe he was boots on the ground in the locker room. Were you not, JD?
In the locker room tonight, yeah. Making the rounds back and forth between the press conference and the locker room, but mostly in the locker room tonight. Okay,
I'll ask you this, and I don't know if you've heard anything yet, but I'm sure people are going to talk about this. I've already got buddies who have texted me about this. How much money is Brandon Ayuk going to cost us for every drop that he's done? Like, come on, dude. It's week 1. They went 32-19. We're getting pissed off about stuff. So, Brandon Ayuk, did he say anything about the ball in the end zone?
He said very little. He said that it was a dime. He did say it was a dime, and it was right where it needed to be, and that he would catch it next week. There was a follow-up question, basically, hey, you going to get that next week? And he said, absolutely, for sure. I'll catch it next week. So a little bit of rust, I think.
So he didn't go the Jimmy G, just like riding a bike, and then step out of the back of the end zone in Denver the next week. No? None of that?
He did not do that.
Okay.
But he did indicate that hey, you know what? That one was right there. He puts it there again. I'll grab it next time.
Yeah.
But all in all, I mean, great win.
Yeah. Dominating win. I mean,
dominating.
you know, and just the way this offense kind of possessed the ball, right? I mean, just pound it. Just pound it. And we've been talking about this offensive line. And that was the big question, you know, going into this football game. Tell me about, you know, your views or your reaction to this offensive line.
Yeah, I thought it was tremendous. They won the game really at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half.
Yep.
Those two drives. I mean, that was it. 12 plays, 75 yards, ending in the field goal. It was really a masterclass, or it would have been, had Ayuk caught that ball that we were just talking about, and you get the touchdown there. But you basically keep the ball for 13 minutes, like 12 and a half minutes. Packers have one play. You're able to turn that into what was a 6-point game into a 16-point game, and basically the Niners never looked back at that point. And another was a lot of discussion post-game about Jordan Mason in particular, and like when he was told he was going to start. That was kind of the other little weird kerfuffle in the post-game. I'm sure you guys have been talking about that, but it for him, I think a lot of people in the 49er locker room believe that Jordan Mason had the game that he had tonight in him. He had just never gotten the opportunity to do it because of
Christian McCaffrey's bell cow nature of work.
And the way Kyle Shanahan trusts and views Christian McCaffrey is obviously an all-time great player at the position. But the sense that I got from talking to people in the locker room is there were a lot of really happy teammates for Jordan Mason tonight, because they believed in watching him these last couple of years that he had that kind of production. And really the small sample size when he has gotten opportunities, yards per carry and the like, has shown that he can. But now getting an opportunity to do it on the big stage, opening night, with Christian McCaffrey out, and who knows what's going to happen with Christian McCaffrey moving forward. I mean, we talked about it in the pregame. It doesn't sound good as far as the Niners trying to rest him and kind of make the best of what could be a lingering and ultimately pretty dire situation, honestly, if that thing goes, talking about the Achilles.
And again, I don't want to put a negative spin on a really nice win and a dominant win, and certainly more than the 32-19 would indicate. And I feel great about Jordan Mason, and we've seen it, and now he's put it into actual action. But anytime you start hearing, just from years of doing this and knowing reporting and everything like that, when something's mysterious, he's going to play, he's not going to play. Adam Schefter saying he's going to miss next week. It's just, you start getting into weird stuff where you got to try to keep the story straight. And when he was told he's going to start, and now he was told this day. No, he's told this day. When you start seeing that kind of thing and these confusions and mistruths possibly and these kind of things, it's worse. And then you start hearing Achilles. And we talked about this in the pregame. When you start hearing that, Kevin Durant eventually popped, Greenlaw eventually popped. Like when you start hearing calf into Achilles, we just have a bad feeling around these parts. So hopefully it gets better, but really, and I'm certainly not a doctor, but they do say that as far as an Achilles, it's just at some point it's a ticking time bomb, and that's kind of how it was with Dre Greenlaw. So I hope that's not the case with McCaffrey, because as good as Mason is, if McCaffrey's out, that kind of changes, I think, the trajectory of the team, no matter how good Mason is. I'm hoping that it's McCaffrey, and then Mason has earned an opportunity to say, look, Christian, we love you, but we just signed you to a long-term contract. We want you to be around here. That age 30 thing comes, no matter if you're Christian McCaffrey or not. Jordan Mason has earned 10 or 12 touches a game. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he's been terrific. And I think, again, unfortunately, it could wind up being a situation where he winds up going from, getting fewer carries than people want to potentially getting all the carries like it was tonight. But knowing that he has, and that the 49ers have somebody as talented as him to step in the interim, I think it does give you, if you're the Niners, the best chance to try and be careful with Christian McCaffrey and put yourself in the best spot to hopefully be able to get him through the injury that he's dealing with and not having it become a major one.
28 carries, the most carries any running back's ever had under Kyle Shanahan as a head coach of the 49ers. I'd find it hard to believe on a short week. I'm sure he'd love to run the ball 37 times again next week. That would likely mean a victory for them, or this coming week on Sunday. I'd find it hard to believe that Jordan Mason is the guy to do that again at 28 carries at that clip. Now, Debo had 8 carries, did find the end zone, didn't run for a great number of yards, but again, it's more about his force and the change of pace and what he can bring you. We were talking to Larry Krueger earlier about, do you want to go to a rookie guy like Isaac Guerrero? Is Patrick Taylor somebody you activate and dress him next week? Keyshawn Vaughn. We were joking about old Broncos backs. Keyshawn Vaughn on the practice squad is another guy with some NFL experience. What are your thoughts on where they go with running back depth if, in fact, McCaffrey's out for maybe a little bit more time? And you need somebody else just to spell a little bit of J.P. Mason.
Yeah, I think Taylor is somebody that could get an opportunity in the short term to be the next guy. I also think they're probably going to have to keep scouring who's available.
Breida maybe still around.
Back. Yeah, and so and just keep an eye out. Obviously, the 49ers have very specific types of running backs that they look for that fit the system and that they feel can thrive. But I think this could be a situation where you're really keeping an eye out while not maybe fully divulging the seriousness of the McCaffrey injury if you have to look to go make a move.
What was your thoughts about Brock Purdy? The passing game was kind of inconsistent a little bit, had a lot of drop passes. What was your thoughts on Brock Purdy's play?
I thought he was really solid in this one. They clearly wanted to run it early. I thought he had, Juwan Jennings, 4 completions to Juwan Jennings, all in big moments, all for first downs. The first 4 completions of the night receptions for Juwan Jennings. He ended up having a 5th one that got within a yard.
Yeah, it was like 3rd and 9. It was like 2nd and 9 or 3rd and 9.
And he got
right
8.5.
to swing it up.
Yeah, and he got 8.5. Otherwise, it would have been 5 catches for 5 first downs in 5 targets. So I thought those were the biggest throws of the game. Specifically, those first 4 that all picked up first downs. I thought he was steady tonight. I thought, really there was only the one drive after the Niners had taken control of the game. They went up 23-7, and, the field goal doinked in. They made it 26-7, but they stalled out a bit on that series. Really, there were a couple of missed throws on that particular series, and there was a penalty on the Jets there that got him into field goal range, but then they answered right back, and they went down after Rodgers had led the Jets down to cut it to a 13-point game. They kick another field goal. So I thought he was real good overall, those big throws to Jennings specifically on a night where, he's got maybe a little bit of rust to shake off as well.
I think that he can be better, and I think that's the scary thing is they had a great running game. I think at times they were out of rhythm. I think he missed Juszczyk on one that was way over his head. I think that
missed Kittle on one.
Yeah, missed Kittle on one.
Now, he did have the great one to Juszczyk up the sideline, which I thought to myself,
absolutely.
Man, Jimmy made a career out of missing that throw.
All
to
the
Juszczyk
time.
up the left sideline. It was a great catch and throw.
Yeah.
But you're right. He did. It was just some timing plays, I felt like.
And again, that's the whole league right now. Like if you sat around and watched Sunday, you just saw it, and go back to Thursday with Mahomes, you just saw it. Offense is just a little bit off rhythm, missing just a little bit. He's going to make a lot better decisions, a lot better throws. I'm not really worried about it. I think that to come out, and the Jets do have a good defense. Yep. I mean, they didn't look like it tonight.
Good pass defense in particular.
They're a good defense, and they scored 32, and they can do better than that. And really, the Jets got the Tyrod Taylor led touchdown, so they got 19. But really, I mean, if you look at this game and you were just scoring it like you're scoring like boxing or something like that, I mean, this is just
they won every round.
Absolutely. I mean, it was really dominant. Offense, defensive lines are really impressive. Did a lot of really good things. J.P. Mason's a great story out of this. Jake Moody hitting 6, obviously, in his second year. He's got a lot more confidence. He hit a couple of 50-yarders in the Super Bowl, and that's hard for me to say. What's his name again?
Make Moody.
Oh, yeah, Make Moody. Sorry, I got confused. But fact is, he was really good. So, look, there's a lot of things to build off. Now, they'll play the great Sam Darnold next week, so all bets are off.
Knock it off. Stop that.
Did you see his line yesterday?
Yeah, we did. No, we did. What was it? I didn't hear what he did to start the
game.
It
was 11 for 11.
We've been talking about this all damn day, dude. I know you're in. I know you're working the bit. I know you're working the bit. That's why I love you, JD. John Dickinson, boots on the ground, except in Minnesota, where he doesn't know how many straight completions Sam Darnold had to start the game. Jets score 19. Jake Moody scores 18, but the Niners tap in 2 more touchdowns to win it 32-19. JD, we will see you tomorrow at work. We'll see you later this week.
Appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Boots on the ground, John Dickinson. Great work. We got a little bit more to wrap things up. Yeah, we're still here. Niners 32-19 over the Jets on the Sports Leader.
By Holmes.
Second and goal, 5-yard line. J.P. Mason, the lone back. Kittle and Debo are stacked right. Now Ute behind Bell left. They run Mason off the left side. A cutback run. Touchdown! San Francisco!
A little Mason madness on the cutback right off an unbelievable block by George Kittle.
Mason madness off of an unbelievable block by George Kittle there. Why don't we make that touchdown the drive of the game, sponsored by El Cerrito Honda, more than just a car dealership. John, we're family. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lynn with you. Following a Niners 32-19 victory, that was the second and final touchdown for the 49ers. J.P. Mason actually scampered in on part of a 12-play, 67-yard touchdown drive in the first half. It got pulled back after a really kind of a BS Debo Samuel holding. It wasn't really relevant to the play at that point. He'd already scampered through the hole. It wasn't really good. It was Debo holding on Sauce Gardner down near the goal line. They ended up calling it back, and then Debo himself punches it in for the touchdown.
Zebra that must have the under.
This one there capped the opening drive of the second half. 11 plays, 70 yards, and a touchdown, and we will make that our drive of the game. Lots of sustained drives for the Niners in this one. A 12-play touchdown drive, a 12-play field goal drive, an 11-play touchdown, 11-play field goal, all of which went for at least 67 yards. So pretty dominant performance on the offensive side. Just as dominant on the defensive side, forcing 2 turnovers, an interception to Aaron Rodgers, and a fumble that they picked up on the second series on the very first play of that second series. Any final thoughts on that J.P. Mason drive where he punches it in, guys? That was the open. I mean, really, that was the one that I felt put this game out of reach. The touchdown to open the second half.
Yeah, no doubt.
Go ahead.
No, I think he just, the way he runs and pounds a team, and you would know this better than I would. You could just tell that the Jets had it. And you don't really, you get that from McCaffrey because guys are frustrated, but he just runs north-south right at you and runs guys over. And in the first week where you haven't played in the preseason, you're a little bit tired. We saw this with the Rams, and what the Lions did is they put in David Montgomery and they just pounded him. The Rams said no mas. That's what the Jets did tonight. They just was like, this 24, man, enough already.
Yeah, and if you have an offensive line that's just getting after it, those guys love to run the ball. Offensive linemen love to run the ball. They can just lay on defensive linemen. If you're a defensive lineman or linebacker and you can't get off blocks, you just get worn down, and you look up and your back's against the end zone and you kind of give up a little bit. You're tired. These big guys are laying on you. Then you got a running back that just runs hard.
I saw Woody Johnson on Fox News yesterday running his mouth about San Francisco. Grab this L and take your ass back to New York, Woody. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lynn hanging out with you. We'll get you the call of the game, and then we'll wrap things up here from Levi's Stadium where the Niners have beaten the Jets 32-19 on the Sports Leader.
I agree. Yeah, I think having him on the other side is going to open up a lot of things for all the guys rushing. And Malik played an awesome game in the run, and he's a great vet to have, and me and him are gonna work really well together on the left there.
As a voice, undoubtedly, of Nick Bosa, Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown, John Lund wrapping things up from Levi Stadium, where the Niners have beaten the New York Jets 32-19. Let's get What's on Tap, sponsored by Fieldwork Brewery. What's on Tap with Fieldwork Brewery with 8 locations around Northern California. Fresh beer is always right around the corner. What's on Tap is a short week for the 49ers as they there you go. 49ers have
was on a blank chair, and I was like, wait a minute.
A short week. They'll have to get down to they'll be going up to Minnesota to play the Vikings this weekend. We were just talking, though, about how crazy it is for a team like the Jets who gets on a plane. We figure, about a half hour from now, maybe, if they're just getting out of here, wrapping up. I mean, they're still going. You figure they're going to the airport, got about a 5.5 hour flight back to New York. They land about 7:30 in the morning, and then got to get up and figure out how to go beat whoever they're playing on Sunday. The Jets looking for their first win. But just a thought on looking ahead. What's on tap? I would guess more carries by J.P. Mason. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, he's earned that right. We've talked about it this entire show. I mean, he went out there and he did his thing, and he did it on Monday Night Football. So, he's made his statement, and Kyle Shanahan has to recognize it. He's got basically a starting back in the National Football League, and he's your backup. So, moving forward, and we've talked about it, you got to find a way to get him at least 10, 15 carries each football game once CMC comes back in this lineup.
Yeah, Kyle said after the game that it would just be how he's feeling, but I think they've got to be cautious. When you hear about an Achilles, they're not going to say this publicly, but I think you look at next week and you say, okay, well, we're 1-0. Not that you want to lose to Minnesota, but you're not going to say it publicly, but you can beat Minnesota without him. It's also on turf. I don't think you want to deal with that. You go the next week, you take on the Rams. The Rams are already 0-1, depending on what they do. A lot of people think that they're going to be the biggest challenger here, but again, that's on turf. So, the next 2 games are on turf. The next on the road. Jordan Mason has showed that he can do things. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but your offense can certainly run without him. A good defense tonight, like the Jets, and you score 32 points, and really your passing game is going to get a lot better as the season progresses. This is still preseason as we look at this thing, so they'll get more chemistry. Brandon Ayuk's not going to drop that ball that dropped late. So, they could have scored 40 points tonight, and that's with Jordan Mason. So, look, that does go into the equation. They're playing on, the surface they're playing on, the way Jordan, if they couldn't run the ball tonight and they got completely blitzed by the Jets, they'd be going to McCaffrey going, can you play? Can you play? Can you play? It buys them some time to be cautious with Christian McCaffrey. This is a team that thinks they're going to be in New Orleans in the first Sunday of February, so they're not going to rush him back.
We are wrapping things up here from Levi Stadium, where the Niners won't return until week 4. Face the New England Patriots on the road for the next couple of weeks. They'll go to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, and then down, to Levi South at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles to take on the Rams under a sea of red is my best guess for how that's going to go. By the way, the Rams missing one of their best offensive weapons now. Puka Nacua placed on the injured reserve with a designation to return after he banged up his knee in yesterday's overtime loss in Sunday Night Football to the Lions. For the Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, for John Lund, for Larry Krueger, John Dickinson, Matt Mayoko, Greg Papa, Tim Ryan, all part of the crew. Thanks to Kyle, who's back in the studio. Thanks to Tim Webb for hanging out all day long with us here at Levi Stadium. We are signing off, and guess what? You're going to get more sports here. No news continuing here on KNBR. We will see you tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Murph and Marcus will have you, and then, of course, John and Greg. I'm sure they'll break down a whole bunch of that Vikings game from yesterday, talk more about Sam Darnold's outing, and then myself and actually Dieter Kurtenbach tomorrow for Tom Tolbert. Till then, everybody have a great night. Signing off from Levi Stadium, where the Niners have beaten the Jets 32-19.